Chapter 19. Robert Morton, executive on the rise, let the spring storm vent its fury outside his swank apartment windows. It had rained all day, but that certainly didn't dampen his spirits. A music samba played in the background as Morton boogied over to the couch in front of his chrome and glass coffee table. He glanced out at the balcony where Tawny, a delicious blonde model, stood, the breeze whipping her long mane into a graceful swirl. He chuckled to himself. Life was good. No, life was fucking great. He sat down on the couch next to Chandra, an exotic model companion of Tawny's, and raised the Coke spoon to his nose. Sniff, wham. Hello world. Chandra giggled. There's just something about the way it sounds, she cooed. Vice President. It just turns me on. Chandra did a line of coke. Morton watched her eyes roll back slightly. Bingo. He scooped up some coke in his spoon and sambered onto the balcony. Spring storm, he said. I love the rain. Want a toot? Tawny nodded, her blue eyes shimmering in the white flashes of lightning around them. It's one of the things I like to do. Morton raised the spoon to her nose. A small trickle of cocaine dribbled down onto her chest. Morton smiled. What do you think of this? He muttered, lowering his face and burying his tongue between her ample breasts. Do you like this? Chandra's laughter interrupted him. He turned to see the raven-haired beauty pouting. Save some for me, Bob. Morton laughed and flicked his tongue. I have plenty for you both. The doorbell rang. Morton glanced inside the high-tech abode. Must be the champagne. Morton danced to the front door and swung it open with a flourish. The smile evaporated from his face as the barrel of a gun appeared outside. Inside! The voice from the hall ordered. Morton stumbled into the room, the gun still pointed at his face. Chandra and Tawny glided in from the balcony. The killer took note of their presence, but didn't really look in their direction. Okay, sluts. Take a hike. Chandra and Tawny gathered their things and scurried towards the door. Tawny took one last look at a very petrified Morton. Goodbye, Bobby. Call me sometime, okay? Morton didn't reply. The gunman slammed the door behind him. Back up, Wonder Boy. Morton tried to summon up every macho bit of posturing he had ever witnessed. Whatever it is you want, you won't get away with it. Don't you know who I am? By way of response, the gunman chuckled and fired 4 rounds quickly into Morton's legs. The young executive went down, howling. His ruptured legs pumped blood onto the thick, white pile carpet. In spite of the pain, the horror, the terror, Morton had time to figure how expensive it would be to get the stains out of the rug. Hell, he might as well spring for a whole new carpet. He looked up into the killer's cold eyes. He began to whimper. I can't believe this is happening, he whined. Believe it, golden boy, the killer replied. Morton began crawling around on the floor like a stuck pig. He made a large circular pass as the killer stepped over him. The killer produced a mini TV and placed it on the coffee table. Come here, asshole. I want you to watch something. Morton crawled towards the coffee table while the hitman snorted some coke and lit a cigarette, very casually. Humbled and in pain, Morton knelt before the gunman. I'll give you anything. Anything you want. Please don't kill me. The killer pointed his gun at the tiny TV. Show's starting. Morton gaped at the Sony Watchman TV as Dick Jones's face appeared on the tiny screen. Hello again, Bobby boy. Jones smiled. Dick Jones here, in a custom-made broadcast designed just for you. How about that? A young executive with a TV show dedicated to him. Feeling important? Hey, I bet you're on your knees right now, probably begging for your life. Pretty pathetic, eh? Jones chuckled. I bet you don't feel so cocky now, do you, Bobby? Morton continued to gaze at the screen. Jones was crazy. He had to be. His legs began to shake. So what else was new? He watched, dumbfounded, as his Siamese cat wandered over to the gunman, rubbing itself against the hitman's legs. The gunman reached down and scratched the cat's ears. The cat purred. Morton was repelled. Traitor. Not only had he been gunned down by a goon, but now his cat was in heat for the guy. Jones continued to talk cheerfully. You know what the real tragedy is here, don't you, Bob? We could have been friends. Teammates. The Batman and Robin of OCP. But you didn't want to go through the proper channels. You went over my head. Gosh, that hurt, Bobby. The killer reached into his flak jacket and produced a hand grenade. He placed it on the coffee table with a resounding clink. Morton stared at the grenade and began to chant a mantra of sheer terror. No, he muttered. No, 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 no. But life goes on, Jones said philosophically. It's an old story, the fight for love and glory. Right, Bobby? It helps if you think of it as a game. A big game. Every game has a winner and a loser. Tonight, Bob, you lose. The killer put out his cigarette, stood, and bending over the table, pulled the pin out of the grenade. Morton began to crawl frantically towards the coffee table. The killer laughed softly and delivered a quick and violent kick into the small of Morton's back. Morton screeched and went tumbling away from the table. Clarence Boddicker laughed and kicked Morton a second time. For good measure, he said evenly. He walked towards the door. Morton pulled himself up and once again moved for the table. Boddicker didn't care. There was no way this guy would survive. Boddicker stepped into the hallway. He hesitated for a moment. Puss, 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 he whispered. Morton's Siamese cat trotted out of the apartment and into the corridor. Good kitty, Boddicker said. He glanced inside before slamming the door. Morton was extending a shaky hand towards the grenade. Boddicker reached down and picked up the cat. Let's you and me get something to eat, he whispered. The cat purred. Boddicker strolled towards the fire exit stairs, humming, "This could be the start of something big." He stepped into the stairwell. Behind him, an apartment door flew off its hinges as a powerful fist of fire, smoke, and debris slammed through the corridor.